But
China.
certainly a tremendous
China
surprise.
And was he performing up until recently? Do we know what he was doing in the last few months and perhaps last year?
Personally, I don't. I know that when I did see him performing, you know,
she died this morning.
Always.
So she died this morning. Our Prince did. That's the same way it happened in 2010 with Farrah Fawcett and Michael Jackson. Remember?
2 hours, maybe more.
Well, I'm telling you, this thing is a death. Like it was in 2010.
2.5-hour show, and then he'd go and do another show at a club, you know, in the town wherever he was. Maybe just a small place or somewhere like Coco up in Camden, and he'd do another show. You know, he was playing and performing absolutely well, round the clock. Really, he was incredible. He was an incredible kind of mainstream of energy. Extraordinary thing that he's
but she pick up the phone.
He's also someone who really understood the visual aspects of performance as well. He was all shown.
I'm like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, he took it all to, you know, extremes in all directions. He was fantastically theatrical, and the was the Sign of the Times tour in 1987, which he played in the round, if I'm correct, if I remember rightly. And you know, it was like a circus ring, and he drove a Cadillac onto the stage, and he had all sorts of, you know, there was a tremendous amount going on, but he was always, you know, it was always the music that was uppermost in his priorities.
And how influential has he been for other artists?
Very influential, I would say. I mean, Alan Edwards likened him or compared him to David Bowie. I think that's, you know, not an unreasonable comparison. He was very much one of those artists who moved through various genres. You know, he wouldn't be pinned down to any one style. He was a giant as a pop star. He played great electric guitar. You know, he kind of did that Jimi Hendrix thing on Purple Rain at the end. He was a great keyboard player. He was a real good dancer and a singer. And of course, he wrote all these songs, a huge body of work, which he seemed to just churn them out. You know, too many. You know, it was like the record company who was loggerheads with his record label because they wouldn't release the stuff he wrote fast enough.
David Sinclair, thank you for your time. If you're joining us now, we've got the very sad news of reports that the pop superstar Prince has died at the age of 57. We're starting to get some reaction through now as well, as you would expect. Gene Simmons of the pop band Kiss has tweeted to say, Prince, sad to say, has passed on. He was a giant. My deep condolences go out to his family. Some reaction from Robbie Williams, who's tweeted to say, now Prince, no, 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 R.I.P. you, genius, and then finishing off that tweet with a kiss. So that's some reaction coming as well. Robbie Williams there, I think, a reference to the fact that Prince is just one of a number of deaths that we've seen in 2016. Of course, we sadly reported on the death of Victoria Wood, the comedian, yesterday. Today, we have the news that the pop superstar Prince has died at the age of 57 years old. We can now speak to Jasmine Dosawala, who is a broadcaster and a music journalist. Thank you for being with us. How important do you think Prince has been for the music industry?
Prince is a legend and an icon, and every great description you can add to a creative artist is the definition of Prince. I mean, he was one of the most prominent multi-instrumentalists. He was capable of playing so many different instruments. At one point, I remember, you know, some of the journalists that I worked with at MTV having interviewed him in the early days, and up to 27 instruments were played. He was one of the greatest acts ever, and the idea that he spanned so many genres, you couldn't ever pinpoint him as his intelligence. And not just his music playing abilities, his singing abilities, his falsetto ranges were so, you know, just so very high, and, you know, never compromised. I remember everyone in the music industry was just fascinated by his, resolute stubbornness most of the time. When he had his issues with the label at Warner Brothers, he changed his name from Prince to the love symbol. He never compromised. He moved with the times. He was so digitally minded. He predicted things on the internet and still talked about them up until recent months about things that were going to happen in the future. And I just think this is a terrible, terrible shock and a loss to one of the greatest names ever. Young British singers were often flown out to his studio. He worked with so many young people from across not just London but the whole of the UK. And he loved surprising the media and fans and the mainstream with, all of his moves. You could never second guess or predict what he'd do next.
You're talking about him as an individual, which of course he certainly was. He couldn't be pigeonholed into a particular genre, could he? He did seem to be very much his own musician, doing his own thing.
Absolutely. I've interviewed so many bands over my time as a music journalist for so many other big brands, and every person I've interviewed, from pop musicians to rock to hip hop and rap acts, every single person would cite Prince as being their icon, as someone who had inspired them. There will be a lot of very shaken and naturally traumatized people, and also fans. Fans from every demographic. You couldn't pinpoint down what a Prince fan looks like. They were global. They're older. They're younger. They're of every demographic that you can imagine. This guy really spans a very global scene.
And are there any memories that you will particularly have of Prince? The things that I always think about are that Purple Rain song, of course, and also the title track from his album 1999. Is there any memories that you will have in particular?
I think growing up in the 80s and 90s, everyone was about, raspberry berets and the colour purple, and I think a lot of people tried to sort of dress like him and emulate him. But I did once stay with a superstar out in LA at Prince's home, and I do remember it was just the most incredible home, just full of art and music and just a lovely, lovely space, lots of big, spacey rooms where he legendary, it was legendary that he threw parties out there for his friends and locals, and I just remember thinking, wow, this was a really incredible guy with a very eclectic taste, and I think those are the memories that I will keep of him.
And how much of a surprise is this news? Was there any indication that people had that Prince was ill?
Well, I can only speak for myself and my peers, and it's come as a terrible shock. A really terrible shock. I don't think anyone talks about his illness. I know his manager, and I only saw her about 10 days ago at an awards show, and, nothing was said or revealed there. So I think everyone must be very shocked, even though I'm sure maybe the people closest to him may have been aware.
He seems quite a mysterious sort of individual as well. Would you agree with that assessment? I don't know what you think. We're in this age where everyone puts themselves out there all the time. He seemed perhaps more iconic because he didn't have to calm himself back.
Absolutely. As you mentioned earlier, he loved keeping second guessing. You could never guess what to do next. A concept, whether it was secret gigs, suddenly a last-minute secret gig at some of your previous calls mentioned, at Coco or any of the nightclubs. He wanted to do things digitally differently, whether he was supporting a new girl band or bringing new singers onto the forefront. He really, really was very private, yet so big a personality. And I think he's one of the last icons and stars that will have not given away everything on social media or, given interviews. I remember in the MTV era when I was working at MTV, you would never have gotten an interview with certain names, and Prince was one of them. You played and A-listed all the records because the music spoke for itself.
Thank you very much for your time and your memories of the artist Prince.
Thank you.
Got a bit more reaction now coming in to the sad news of the death of Prince. Ellen DeGeneres, who is the comedian and talk show host in the United States, has put out a tweet in which she says, "Prince was brilliant and larger than life. What a sad day." So Ellen DeGeneres, the latest celebrity and music star to record her reaction to the news. Joined now by Ian Woods, who's with me. Ian, what's the latest that we know from the investigation?
Well, the police still haven't released any more details other than the fact that there was a death at Paisley Park, which is the recording studio near Minneapolis, where was based, saying that there was a death at the complex and they were investigating it and they wouldn't release any more details until next of kin had been informed. But since they put out that statement, Prince's publicist has confirmed the death. I suppose it's worth pointing out that even if you weren't a fan of Prince, you may well have unknowingly been a fan of Prince's music, because so many of his songs were covered by other people. Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You, Chaka Khan, I Feel For You, even Manic Monday by the Bangles, Tom Jones and the Art of Noise singing Kiss. These were all songs that Prince wrote. And interestingly, 5 years ago, he did an interview with the American host George Lopez, in which he decried the number of people who covered his songs. If he had his way, nobody else would cover his music. He wanted it to be the only one, though it's hard to imagine in some ways him having a hit with Manic Monday. Yeah, there will be a lot of artists out there who have made a lot of money through Prince's music, and Prince will make a lot of money out of it as well, even if he didn't always like the versions of the songs that other people could cover.
We're looking now at the live pictures from Paisley Park in Minnesota, which is the scene outside the estate owned by Prince, the H Hotel, and it was there, according to the website TMZ, that authorities responded to an emergency on Thursday morning at this Paisley Park studio. So you're looking at those pictures, the latest pictures from Paisley Park. I think we have Richard Suchet with us. Richard, what kind of reaction are we getting from the entertainment world of the news that the Prince has died at the age of 57?
Well, I think Ellen DeGeneres put it pretty well there, that the Prince was simply brilliant and larger than life, and I think that is a tribute that will echo throughout social media, because he was so widely loved, and it's really because partly for his sheer talent. I mean, he was a virtuoso in almost every way. I mean, he was steeped in jazz from a very young age. His father was a leader of a Minneapolis jazz band. I think his mother was a jazz singer. He was playing the piano, excuse me, from the age of 7,
wow,
guitar at the age of 13, drums at the age of 14. A voice that is just so distinctive, an incredible range, incredible falsetto range.